Welcome in, everyone, and thank you for listening to the 233rd ever episode of the Missouri Sports Podcast, brought to you by 106 Apparel and recording from the Revel Advertising Studio in beautiful Springfield, Missouri. I'm one of your hosts, Cameron Albert, alongside my good friend and fellow Mizzou fan, Kyle DeVries. How you doing today, Kyle?
I'm doing great, Cameron. How about you?
Not too bad.
You ever notice there's like a ceiling tile up there that's just like displaced?
Would you believe me if I said right above your head there's one completely missing?
Gosh, I've never noticed that.
Yeah. Well,
that's really it.
It happens sometimes.
Yeah.
Got to get up in there.
They run away. You just don't know where they go.
Yeah. What have you been up to?
I don't know. Working, watching Mizzou basketball. That's pretty much it. That's the only things that matter in my life.
True. Did you see the NCAA football is thinking about making some rule changes dealing with the speed of the game or something like that?
Yes, I have.
It was like they're going to let the clock run. They're not going to stop the clock after first downs until like the last 2 minutes of the half or something.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly what it was, but definitely intended to speed up the game. I mean, I don't know. I'm not really sure how impactful that's going to be. I don't know how much time that will truly shave off, but...
Are you a fan of 3-hour college football games, 3.5 hour, 4-hour college football games?
Well, let me put it this way, Cameron. College football season is pretty short.
True.
And some of us love college football.
True.
And we want to just consume it all day long, every day. And that's our escape from the real world.
Yeah.
And so as long as I'm watching Mizzou football, I'm not thinking about anything else. So
make it 5 hours.
Make it 5 hours.
Okay.
And I mean, okay, in all seriousness though, I don't really care how long the games are. It's whatever. I enjoy watching Mizzou football, even if it does take 3.5, 4 hours. But I can certainly understand the feasibility of wanting to shave off some time. I know a lot of people have said they should just shave off some commercial time, which I, of course, agree with that.
Right.
But
unfortunately, that's the least likely thing to happen.
Of course, yes. But I do wonder if, I think it may not make that much of a difference, but obviously college football, we see a lot less upsets in college football than college basketball. There's 11 guys on the field instead of 5 on the court, but the games are a lot longer too. There's a lot more time for the good teams to kind of enforce their will, get back in the game, whatever. And so I do wonder if shaving off some time could open up a little bit more chance for upsets, but it's probably not enough time to really make a difference.
No, I think you got a good point there. Shorten the game, make it harder for teams to overcome bad starts potentially. And yeah, it feels like a lot of times those matchups, you think of a Georgia or an Alabama, they get down early. It's like, well, don't worry.
They always come back.
Yeah. They have their third string guys that they'll put in at the end of in the fourth quarter.
Right. There's more time for the teams with a lot of depth.
Yeah. To
just continue to not get tired. Just throw more 5-star guys in there.
Yeah. And
it'll be fine.
Yeah. Let's see. We got a lot of Mizzou basketball to talk about, of course. 2 games to recap, 2 to preview. Really coming down the stretch here. Every game is super meaningful for NCAA tournament aspirations and seeding. Before we get into all of that, don't forget to subscribe on YouTube, leave us a review where you listen to us, and of course, you can support us directly on Patreon, patreon.com/Missouri Sports Pod.
Road to 500 subscribers.
Yeah.
Got a little closer last week.
We're inching closer every day.
For those of you that subscribed, thank you very much.
Yes. Let's see here. First off, Mizzou lost to Texas A&M 69-60. That was kind of a rough game, kind of what we expected. We were being hopeful, maybe a little too optimistic. Maybe we thought that Texas A&M isn't legit, but it's going to be the end of the season pretty soon, and Texas A&M is going to be the number 2 seed in the SEC tournament, and we're going to be like, oh, you know what? Maybe they actually were good all along.
Yeah, I think it's time for us and for the rest of the college basketball community to put some respect on Texas A&M's name for sure. They've flown under the radar far too long. They have a legitimate shot at winning the SEC. Yeah. I think they're a half game back from Alabama.
Right.
For the SEC. They've just beaten everybody in their way, basically, in the conference season. So it's time that we recognize this is a very good team.
One of the last games of the SEC season is March 4th, Texas A&M at home against Alabama.
Wow. Yeah, I don't think the schedule makers drew that one up to be kind of a clash of the Titans at the end of the season, but it's looking like that's what it's going to end up being.
And of course, after Texas A&M beat Mizzou, they beat Tennessee.
Yeah.
It was a home game for A&M, but they just kind of showed like, what do you want us to do?
Right.
Like they're now 13-2 in SEC play.
Yeah, back-to-back
they're
road
legit.
games in like the two of the toughest places to play in the league.
And
Missouri
just
and
this
Tennessee.
week got into the top 25 in the polls.
And exactly at number 25.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I mean, obviously, rough non-conference schedule. But, yeah, they lost two kind of – they have two losses that are going to be considered bad losses on their resume at the end of the season. But if you win 10-plus games in the SEC, you're pretty good.
Yeah, they're going to have one of the most unique resumes at the end of the season. I don't know how whenever you and I are, doing our seeding guesses and stuff, when the committee is determining the seeds of the NCAA tournament, I don't know what they're going to do, because in all reality, if you look at just the conference season, A&M is probably deserving of, a 3-4 seed, honestly. If you just assume, like, extrapolate like what they did in conference season, they must have played really well in non-conference too. You're probably giving them a 3 seed, but they're probably going to be more like a 6 to 8 range or something like that if they keep playing well.
Yeah. And obviously a lot of it will depend on what they do in the SEC tournament, but the brand of basketball that they're playing right now, I don't know. I don't want to act like they're like a Final Four contender or something, but they are inching up there in all of the important metrics. And in KenPom now they're 25th, 21st on offense, 48th on defense. So yeah, they're playing really well.
Yeah, they're just really good at making you play their style of game, which a lot of teams probably don't want to play. And Missouri definitely didn't. Yeah,
actually, as I was watching both the A&M and Mississippi State games, fortunate that we had these games back to back because they're so similar opponents. We can kind of just bundle them together here, but it kind of made me realize that maybe we, like, Konzo Martin basketball was perhaps more influenced by the opponent than we realized when it was happening. Like,
we were just letting teams take advantage of us and make us play how they want to play.
Exactly. And obviously Konzo wanted to play the same style as Texas A&M most of the time they were playing each other. But it's more obvious now that Texas A&M, when they've got the pieces, they're going to make anybody play that style of basketball. And so I don't know. I maybe made me think we talk about this Dennis Gates team falling back into reminding us of Konzo coached teams, and I think more needs to be said about these SEC opponents just having a style and sticking to it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, what else went wrong in this game? I mean, Kobe played well, but
Kobe was the KenPom MVP.
Yeah,
24 points.
We're not falling for anyone else.
Right. He was 5 of 7 from 3. The rest of the team was 4 of 19. One huge factor that nobody could really make sense of, and it was talked about after the game, was the lack of points off turnovers. I think A&M turned the ball over 21 times, but we just couldn't capitalize on it. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that was missing at the rim. I mean, in the A&M game and Mississippi State, Missouri just struggled to convert right at the basket. Mm-hmm. And that's been a bit of a trend all season. As good as Mizzou's offense has been, if it's not a fast break, we've struggled a little bit. We saw Sean East multiple times get steals and not be able to convert, get the shot blocked. Hodge had a couple steals throughout these 2 games that didn't turn into points or should have been a layup, but we got bailed out by a foul. It's just, I don't know. We got to be converting these better. And of course, Mizzou was out-rebounded 41-23 against A&M. They were able to turn things around though and beat Mississippi State 66-64 in overtime. This was a super exciting game. It would have been a little bit better if the team's offenses were scoring a little bit more. There were a lot of empty possessions both ways, but back and forth game, multiple lead changes. The game was tied lots of times. Just almost a perfect college basketball game. If the offenses were executing a little bit better, we'd have had something more like, I don't know, the Tennessee game, but close throughout. Mm-hmm. But this one was really exciting, super fun to watch.
Yeah, it was just constantly back and forth. Neither team ever pulled away at any point. It was just totally up in the air the whole time.
I was looking at the before these two games. I was looking at the win and loss splits for Mizzou basketball shooting threes, and I calculated that they were shooting like in SEC play. They were shooting like 45% from three in wins, but 21% in losses.
Whoa!
And so I wanted to then look at these two games and see how that stacked up. So in the loss to Texas A&M, Missouri actually shot 35% from three, but only 44% from two. And then against Mississippi State, Missouri shot 33% from three and 46% from two.
Yeah, these games were both kind of anomalies in different ways, especially Mississippi State game, just because I think this is the second game of the season that Missouri has won scoring less than 70 points. They ended up scoring less than 70, right, even with overtime?
Yeah, 66.
Yeah, so, I mean, I guess that's encouraging to know that Missouri kind of pushed through a terrible matchup, a team they've already lost to earlier this season. Didn't look good and didn't play really the way they normally do, and were still able to come out with a win. And I would say was the better team for most of the game. Kind of struggled down the stretch, but found a way to finish it off. I think I'm encouraged by that they found a way to win a game in a different way than they normally do.
Okay, so how we talked about in the preview, looking at how is Missouri going to make adjustments off of the first matchup. Are they just going to try to beat Mississippi State at their own game? Are they going to try to run a little bit more? Now, this one was a little different because we had Trey Gomillion back for both of these games, and they put Mohamed Diarra out there as a starter against Mississippi State. So I was having trouble coming up with a take around like the rotations and stuff because they kind of did double down on trying to play bigger. But Diarra ended up only playing 17 minutes and fouling out. So I don't know. It's like, well, they came out with the win, but it kind of felt like a game that Mississippi State should win because it was low scoring and both offenses were struggling. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's honestly a great question. And I think I was a little bit scared whenever I saw Diarra was getting his first start because that was immediately my first thought was like, okay, yep, they are going to double down and just put the big lineups out there and just try and beat Mississippi State at their own game, which I just don't agree with that as a strategy. But honestly, Diarra just played a lot better than I was expecting. First of all, yeah, he only played 17 minutes and did foul out. He was kind of the sacrificial lamb, just like, okay, just go in there and play your best and we'll deal with it. But in some of the minutes he did play, man, he has got some real potential to be an offensive threat. And obviously he does provide rebounding that very few other players provide. But some of the stuff he was doing on offense, just like he can shoot pretty well, but he was doing some drives and stuff, just getting to the basket, like beating his man. Like I feel like at one point, like he kind of got the ball on the perimeter and beat his man on the drive, and like the defender was like almost looked shocked, like whoa, this dude just ran by me and just had an easy layup. So
he was finding open teammates, making incredible passes, bounce passes to open or guys cutting to the basket and stuff.
Right. And then I would say the biggest factor maybe in this game that was different from Mississippi State was that Gomillion was back, and he kind of like is this interesting asset where he can play in a smaller lineup. Like, he's probably 6'4", but he kind of has the game of a big man. And, I think he probably led the team in rebounds. At least it felt like it last night.
10 rebounds.
10 rebounds. It felt like he was everywhere.
3 offensive rebounds.
Yeah, so he honestly just kind of filled a role that we've been missing. And honestly, I didn't know that we were missing it until I saw him back out there last night and see how he was just, I don't know, playing really hard and just cleaning up the boards and stuff. That was super valuable.
Demoy Hodge, 3 of 9 from 3. So he had 16 points, and he also had 3 blocked shots and 3 steals. So he was kind of doing it all. Mm-hmm. Of course, we got to talk about the fantastic finish to this game. It was very back and forth. There multiple times where I thought the game was over, and they're just a roller coaster of emotions. At the end of regulation, I'm trying to think. The end of regulation is when Hodge missed the free throw, right?
Yeah, I think there were like maybe 2 different times where somebody missed a free throw that would maybe put the game away.
Hodge went to the line with us up 2 with 20 seconds left, missed the front end of the 1-and-1. Tolu Smith got fouled, made both free throws to tie it at 57. And then, that was when Sean East, at the end of regulation, tried to drive to the basket, but it got stripped out of bounds. We get the ball under our own basket with like less than 3 seconds left. The ball goes to Kobe Brown. He's open right under the basket and just misses.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't have drawn it up better than that. I mean, that was exactly the look that they wanted. Who they wanted to shoot it. And it just it looked good. Yeah. Like, just watching it in like a slow-mo replay, it looked like it was perfectly about to go in and just bounced off the rim weird.
I mean, there was probably 8 shots in this game like that. Yeah. I didn't watch the A&M game live, so I went back and watched it after the fact. And so watching these 2 games almost back to back, there were just so many missed shots at the rim for Mizzou, and none bigger than that one that was the game winner. And if he's in that position 10 times, I think he's winning the game there 9 out of 10 times.
Right. Yeah. If Missouri did not win that game, that would have been pretty soul crushing, knowing that they had a bunny like that to win it and missed.
So we went to overtime. Nick Honor opened the overtime with a made 3. Mississippi State, of course, immediately answered. That was another story of the game. Every time we would try to make a big shot, Mississippi State would answer.
Well, with how slow paced this game was and how few points were scored, I mean, this was a complete mistake on my part. But after we hit that Nick Honor 3, I was like, okay, I don't think we're going to give up the lead again. I think we are just I think we're good. And we kind of got some confidence here. A 3-point lead in that game is a pretty big lead.
Yeah, there was the last 5 minutes of regulation, there were a couple opportunities, including Nick Honor transition 3, that it was that's his shot.
It was halfway down.
Is a big shot maker in big moments. And transition 3, that was something. He
loves doing that.
When he first transferred to Mizzou, you look up his highlights. Okay, what's this Nick Honor guy about? It's just him pulling up in transition and making threes.
Yeah.
And so he finally got one to go in overtime, and then Tolu Smith made a shot to. So they answer with a 3. Mizzou gets a empty possession. Tolu Smith gives Mississippi State a 2-point lead. Kobe Brown has to go sit because he has a bloody nose because he ran into his teammate. And then Noah Carter steps up and hits his biggest shot of the season.
Yep.
A 3 to give Mizzou a 1-point lead. Another Mississippi State basket that Noah Carter had the ball in his hands, and then that was just a kind of a mess of a possession that ended in a made basket for Mississippi State to give them the 1-point lead. That's when Nick Honor ended the game. Incredible shot over Tolu Smith, 3-pointer, take a 2-point lead. Mississippi State is in a little bit of a scramble, isn't able to score at the buzzer. That's always a nervous moment when the ball's just kind of bouncing around and you I want to see that red light on the backboard light up.
You're watching the action, not the clock, and so you just don't really know how much time is left, and you're just please just let the time run out.
Yes. But Nick Honor, 2 huge shots in overtime to win this game. And this was one that Mizzou needed. I mean, it would have been really nice to win both of these games, but splitting here is not the end of the world. Yeah, just a fantastic game. One that if Mizzou had lost would have been pretty demoralizing, I think.
Yeah, that would have haunted us, I think. Okay, NCAA tournament question. Missouri's got 3 regular season games left and at least 1 game in the SEC tournament. If they go 0-4, are they in the tournament? So, in other words, are they a lock for the tournament?
Are they a lock for the tournament?
As of now.
I would have to say no. But I think the only way they don't make the NCAA tournament is to lose all 4 remaining games. I think that's the only way they don't get in. Win one of these last 3 or just win 1 game in the SEC tournament. I would be nervous. Like there'd be bubble drama, I think, if we lose out the regular season and only win 1 game in the SEC tournament. I would be super nervous still, but I think we'd be on the good side of the bubble.
Yeah, I think it would take something pretty catastrophic at this point. I think if you win 1 game at any point, I think you're safely in. But 0-4, that'd be a little scary.
There's so many teams.
Yeah.
I mean, the bubble teams that we're talking about, Mississippi State is one of them.
Right. And it's just the fact that the rest of the games on our schedule are against pretty bad teams.
Yeah.
So even though 2 of the last 3 games are on the road, I mean, it's LSU and Georgia. Like you gotta find a way to win at least one of those.
Yeah, all 3 games left, triple-digit KenPom teams, and then with where Missouri is in the SEC standings, there's a decent. I mean, whoever we play in the first round, that's not going to be a quadrant 1 game on a neutral site. So basically, if we want to, at the end of the regular season and SEC tournament, if we want to still be able to say that our only losses are to quad 1 or in quad 1 situations, then we basically have to win 4 in a row here.
Yep.
So that's easier said than done.
I mean, it's wild. I mean, it's still very possible Missouri could get the double bye, like sneak in at the 4th seed in the SEC standings, or they could end up as like the 10th seed or something. And it's just like there's so much that can happen in a 3-game stretch.
Yeah, so after the Mississippi State game, Missouri's now 20-8 on the season, 8-7 in SEC play, 62 in KenPom, 9th on offense, 203rd on defense.
And they improved like 20 spots after that on defense after that Mississippi State game.
Yeah,
I think they were in the 220s before the game.
Bart Torvik, that website simming the remaining games has Missouri going 22-9, 10-8. In SEC play, resulting in a 9 seed, SEC tournament pending. ESPN and CBS had not updated today, so this is before the Mississippi State game. ESPN had Mizzou as a 10 seed, CBS Sports as a 7 seed. I still don't understand
it's a pretty big discrepancy.
3 seed line discrepancy between the two.
But I mean, that just shows you, like you said, how tight everything really is. That it's totally subjective, like who's got the better resumes. It's just kind of how people feel about it.
And something that unless you're, I don't know, maybe this is common knowledge, maybe you need to be fairly deep in the culture to know this kind of thing, but an 11 seed is like the worst seed for a Power 5 team.
Yeah, Missouri, exactly. They're getting 11 seed or you're not in the tournament.
Right.
Like that's, you can't.
12 through 16 is basically 100% of the time reserved for automatic qualifiers or a random at-large non-Power 5 team.
Mm-hmm.
So seeing ESPN have Mizzou as a 10 seed, even though there's 16 total seeds, it
is a little scary.
Yeah.
To know that they're potentially 1 seed line away from the bubble, essentially.
Yeah. And in my head, when I'm thinking about the NCAA tournament bubble, I kind of extend that to like the first 8 teams out of the tournament. And then they'll do like the last 4 are going to be in the play-in game.
Yeah.
But then the 4 before that don't have to be in a play-in game, I still look at that as part of the bubble.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like
those teams are still like not 100% sure if you're making the tournament on Selection Sunday. I would consider that the bubble.
Yeah. So nothing's over yet.
That's true.
I like the 7 that CBS is going with better though.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's just so many ways that you can look at a resume, but I feel like if they really are using like the quadrant system, just to know that Missouri does not have a loss outside of quadrant 1, I mean,
that's huge. That's fairly rare in any given season.
Power 5. I mean, there's only like 10 teams that can say that.
Yeah.
It's a very short list of teams that can say that, and I don't know. It's a 10 seed seems very low to me.
And even if you're not looking at the net or whatever, even if you're taking on board KenPom and Bart Torvik and some of those analytic sites, a team that finishes 500 or better in their conference and is a top 10 offense or top 10 defense, I want to see what that team can do in the NCAA tournament.
Oh, for sure.
I would hate to see, regardless of how
especially
bad.
if it's offense.
Yeah. But regardless of how bad the other stat is, it's hard for me to justify keeping a top 10 team in either category out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as long as the record's where it needs to be.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we love the analytics and we'll look at it all day long, and they're very important to that discussion. But ultimately, I think who have you beat, who'd you lose to, I think is still probably the top priority as far as kind of looking at how the health of a resume.
Yeah. And being able to say no bad losses, that is very rare. Looking at you mentioned the SEC standings a little bit. So kind of insane. Alabama still there at number 1. They play tonight as we're recording this. They're at 13-1. Texas A&M right there at 13-2. And we already talked about that huge matchup at the end of the season. I hope that determines the regular season champion.
Yeah, that'd be really fun.
Then third is basically Kentucky and Tennessee with 9 wins. Kentucky plays tonight. They're 9-5. Tennessee 9-6. Then Auburn, Vanderbilt, Missouri, and Arkansas all have 8 wins. Auburn and Vanderbilt are 8-6. Missouri and Arkansas are 8-7.
And it's nuts because, I mean, Tennessee and Kentucky, like you mentioned, kind of a one game ahead of Missouri, but Missouri's got the tiebreaker on both of those teams.
Yeah.
So at this point, you're kind of rooting against Kentucky and Tennessee. I don't know. Are you rooting for Auburn just to shoot up to the 3 seed so you don't have to worry about them? Is that like
Probably.
The best case scenario? Is you just kind of want Auburn to win unless they're playing one of those 2 teams?
Probably.
And I think Auburn does play at least one of those 2 teams. I don't know. It's just a mess. It's a web of everybody playing each other. But
Kentucky and Florida are playing tonight. And let's see.
Missouri has the tiebreaker over Vanderbilt as well.
Right. Tennessee plays South Carolina on Saturday, but they end their season with Arkansas and Auburn.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. But if Arkansas wins too many games, that's trouble.
Yeah. And I think I feel like I saw Auburn maybe has one of the toughest remaining schedules of anybody.
Yeah, they play Kentucky, Alabama, and Tennessee after the Ole Miss game tonight.
Auburn does?
Yeah.
Arkansas plays those same teams, but in a different order. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, it's just gonna be fascinating to see. It's like it's almost too early to even know who you're rooting for.
Exactly.
And there's only 3 or 4 games left on the schedule. It's really too early to know who you want to win.
It's so bunched up there. I mean, we're talking about 3 through 7. All either have 8 or 9 wins.
Yeah.
It's going to be a fun end of the season here.
Mm-hmm. Especially if Missouri's winning.
Yeah. And we can start that off with a road trip. It starts with a visit to Georgia. Georgia is 16-12 on the season, 6-9 in SEC play, 131 in KenPom, 161 on offense, 122 on defense. Georgia, not a super scary team, but they've done okay this year. I think there was a stretch where, let me see. I mean, they've got some pretty decent wins. A home win over Mississippi State early in SEC play, and then a home win over Kentucky a little bit more recently. But their last 2 games against some pretty good opponents, obviously. Alabama, they lost that one 108-59.
Wow.
Yeah, and then they just lost to Arkansas last night 97-65.
Yeah, that was on the road at Arkansas.
Yeah. Both of those were road games, tough matchups, obviously.
Yeah, I certainly...
Nick Smith's back for Arkansas, if you didn't know that.
I certainly would kind of hope that, because I think Georgia's the toughest game left on the schedule, being on the road. Exactly like you said, they're not super scary on offense or defense, but it does seem like they've just have played really well at times this year. They've really hung with some good teams. They've beaten a couple good teams. They've played really well at home. I think they're like 13-2 at home or something like that. Like they really don't lose very many games when they're at home.
Their 2 home losses though are to Vanderbilt and Ole Miss. They gave up 85 points to Vanderbilt at home, and they gave up 78 to Ole Miss at home.
That is mind-blowing.
Oh, yeah, they're a weird team this year.
That is weird. So I'm hoping that maybe at this point, they've tried hard all season. They've had some good moments, but maybe they are just not playing quite as hard anymore. I would love that. Give me the pack it in narrative. I would gladly accept that.
If they don't pack it in, they've got ways to win. They kind of lack like a alpha, like dominant scorer. They're not trying to be too insulting here, but they're like a team of role players, basically. I think, and they have a pretty deep bench though. Like they'll cycle through guys a lot. They don't have a starting 5 that kind of like dominates the minutes. So they're willing to play with their rotations to try to find some matchups that they like, try to find some mismatches. A guy I really like for Georgia is Jabri Abdurrahim. He's a bench player. He hasn't started a game this year, but he's shooting over 40% from 3 in SEC play. And they've got a couple guys off the bench that can kind of be a spark plug. And I don't know. I feel like Missouri, especially with it being on the road, you got to really take this game seriously. But I think Missouri's offense, if this game was at home, I would be predicting a breakout game from Missouri's offense. It's on the road, so maybe I pump the brakes a little bit, but Georgia's defense just really isn't very scary.
Yeah.
Especially, I feel like they're a good matchup for Missouri's offense.
I was thinking the exact same thing.
Georgia's defense doesn't turn you over. They don't block shots. They close out well on 3-point shooters, but they give up a ton of baskets inside. So where Missouri earlier in the season, we've talked about kind of their ups and downs, but they were having games earlier where they were shooting like 60% from 2 and they were just doing whatever they wanted. I think we can get back to a little bit more of that against Georgia. Like I think even if the threes aren't falling for Mizzou, we'll be able to manufacture some offense.
Yeah. I was thinking the exact same thing, that I do think this is an opportunity, especially after playing some of these just grinded out teams where they're kind of like sharpened themselves against these kind of crazy defenses here in the last couple of games. I think they'll be ready to just kind of unleash against a defense that is not scary whatsoever, even on the road. I do think that Missouri is going to look a little bit more like the team we've enjoyed watching earlier this season, where they're high flying, shooting well. That's very much my hope, at least. And Georgia's really well coached. Mike White, I'm sure you guys remember him coaching at Florida. He's a very good coach, and I'm sure he'll be looking for any way he can to slow down what Missouri does well.
Yeah, I just think if we play inside out, and one thing that I've been happy to see from Missouri's offense is an adjustment to get Demoy Hodge doing more without the ball, and getting him some of those cuts for easy baskets has been huge. And I look for more of that.
It does feel like certain players do just kind of find their niche as the season goes on. Their niche.
I think
either.
Both are legal.
Okay. I mean, like Noah Carter with his big 3-point shot last night. I mean, that is his game. Just kind of pick and pop, find his spots. Like, we don't want him dribbling around a lot, or really he doesn't play inside a whole lot, but just kind of picking his spots and hitting big threes and stuff. Like, I think we've seen some of the players really find how they can make an impact. Go Million last night was a great example of that.
Yeah, for me personally in this Georgia game, I'm looking for less ISO and more transition baskets, more assists. That's where Georgia is vulnerable. If you can move the ball around, they're closing out hard. So an extra pass, you'll have a wide open shooter, or give a good pump fake, you'll have an open lane. I think that's what Missouri needs to be looking for. I think they can do it. I think they can win this game. Even though it's on the road, I do like for Missouri's offense to, kind of remind us of what they can do, why they are top 10 in the analytics. Give me a Mizzou win and the offense wakes up a little bit. Give me Mizzou 83 to 74.
I'll take that. Yeah, I think Missouri's going to win too. Man, I don't know. I'm not going to be surprised if they lose this game. I'm really not. We talk about it every single week, how difficult it is to win on the road and just in unexplainable ways. And Georgia's been surprisingly decent this year, but I do think Missouri's going to be focused. I think they'll get the job done. And I think they'll win 76 to 70.
I'm trying to find a comparable. Okay, so the game that they lost at home to Ole Miss. Let me see what Ole Miss was able to do in that one. Ole Miss won this game 78 to 74. They shot 17% from three.
What? That's definitely the opposite of what I thought you were going to say.
But they shot 58% from two and made 22 of their 27 free throw attempts. That matched Georgia's 27 attempts from the free throw line. So I think that's where it is. I think it's you don't necessarily, obviously, you don't have to shoot lights out from three against this Georgia team, and they're going to kind of sell out to not let you make threes.
Yeah, I think Missouri's got that reputation, so use that to your advantage and get it done down low. Give it to Kobe, let him go to work.
Another interesting thing about Georgia, in conference play only, they're the second fastest tempo in the SEC.
Yeah, I think that bodes well.
Yeah. Ugh. It makes me nervous when everything on paper is looking good.
It's coming down to this.
After beating Georgia, we hope, another road game at LSU. LSU, one of the weirdest stories.
They're packing it in.
Oh, yeah. LSU, 12-15 on the season, 1-13 in SEC play. They're going for that number one pick. They started the season 12-1 and are 0-14 since then. You look at
Say that again.
They started the season 12-1. Looking good. This is promising. First year.
Basically, the first game or two of conference season. That's around that point.
They were 1-0 in conference play. They beat Arkansas.
Wow.
And then they have since then gone 0-14. So
wow.
Their Kim Pompey just like a block of red. Yeah.
That's not a fun place to be.
No. So what has happened to LSU? Well, most recently they lost at home to South Carolina.
Oh, okay. That's not very good.
No. 82 to 73. They lost to South Carolina at home. So basically that was the game of who's the worst team in the SEC, and LSU was like, it's us. They still have KJ Williams and Adam Miller, who are solid players.
Yeah, excellent players.
But they're dead last in the SEC in offensive efficiency, effective field goal percentage, 2-point field goal percentage, and they turn the ball over on top of all that.
Is Matt McMahon a fraud? Is he fraudulent, Cameron?
Somebody's got to come in year one and not do well.
I suppose.
Right? So it's at the point where he's the one, but that's 1-13.
Lamont Paris, pretty bad first year. But
yeah, but not the worst.
Yeah, that's true. I feel like I just expected LSU's got a lot more talent than South Carolina does right now. So it just feels like they should be better than they are.
Yeah.
which is a bad look for the coach.
I would agree. Yeah, things aren't looking good there, but I don't know what their recruiting is looking like or anything like that.
Now, Cameron, I know you're well connected with the logistics of Mizzou travel.
Okay.
Do we know if Missouri's going back home between these two games? Because if they're not, that's a little scary.
I mean, you're going to Georgia. You might
on
as
a
well.
Saturday,
Yeah.
and then their next game is a Tuesday or Wednesday.
It is Wednesday.
Okay, I bet they go back home.
Yeah.
It's a noon game, right? On Saturday?
Oh,
Mhm.
good question.
I think it is.
Yes.
Well,
That's plenty of time.
Yeah.
Come on back home
Yes.
Saturday and
Yeah.
Yeah, that Atlanta airport's right there.
Yeah. Yep. I don't think we have anything to worry there. They'll be well rested for the LSU.
Now, it's still a road game, and LSU had their last 4 games here: home against Vanderbilt, at Ole Miss, home against Missouri, and then at Florida. They got to win one of those last 4. So it might come tonight against Vanderbilt. Their next best shot is at home against Missouri. Their defense is last in SEC play in 3-point field goal percentage allowed. So,
Worse than Missouri.
Yeah.
Wow.
14th out of 14.
That's awful.
So Missouri's offense looking like an opportunity to go back-to-back with some impressive performances.
Mm-hmm.
You got to predict a win in both of these, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe let me go with a win. I'll let you give your score first.
Okay. Yeah, I'll say Missouri beats LSU 81-71.
Yeah, give me 78 to 73. A little too close, but
It'll probably they'll do that. They like just making the games close so they can win it on a buzzer beater.
yeah, that's what it seemed like last night. Oh man, I was glad. I was that shot. Nick Honor, like they could have held for the last shot there.
Yeah,
Down one.
almost everything about that was like not great, like
But-
timing wise and just like the shot, like the shot percentage wise,
Yeah.
like kind of falling away, like step back 3
Mhm,
almost.
That's how you get it done. That's
He was just feeling it, man.
yeah.
He
It's
just
a
had
big
that,
moment.
He just had that feeling it was gonna go in.
It felt good as soon as he let it go too. 2 huge shots in overtime. Yeah, let's go 2 road wins back to back. That just saying that doesn't feel like.
I know, it's like Missouri should go 4-0 to finish out the season. Like they should be favored in every game. The 4 teams they're playing are not good, but yet it's just like there's no way we go 4-0, right? Like we're gonna stumble somewhere. But and when you just go on a game by game basis, it feels
All
like
season I was saying 5-0. Now that was before we knew that Texas A&M was.
yeah.
But
Oh yeah, I got you.
the 2 home games, then the
Mhm.
nice little bad team stretch to finish it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if let's say Missouri beats these 2 teams on the road, finishes off with a home win against Ole Miss, that I'm feeling good about like a 7 seed.
Yeah.
At that point.
Yeah, give me like the most like flowery outlook that you can think of at this point. Like they finish the season all wins. They get the 4 seed in the SEC tournament with the double bye. That means they play the 1 seed, which either Alabama or Texas A&M.
We get a game before that though.
That's right.
So we win a game, then play the 1 seed.
Yep. So
I guess we want it to be A&M.
Yeah, we'd probably be playing like a Vanderbilt or Florida in that first game, and then probably A&M. If you get to the championship game or something like that, I think that you're looking at a 6-7 seed for sure, easily.
Yeah, I mean, win out in the regular season and win 1 game in the SEC tournament, we should be well off the bubble. Not going to have to sweat Selection Sunday, and that is what makes me think it's not going to happen. Okay, so let's get these 2 wins. Anything else before we sign off here?
We do like to sweat, don't we?
Well, you said,
Sweat it out.
Yeah, I mean, we're sweating out the end of these games. We're going to sweat out the end of the regular season.
That's what we do.
And we'll be sweating it out Selection Sunday.
And then we're going to win our first tournament game in over a decade against a 9 seed and then play
Kansas.
Get decimated by the 1 seed. Who is not Kansas?
Let it be Houston.
Yeah, it'll be Houston. Yep.
Speaking of first win in a decade, this is the first time Missouri won 20 games in the regular season since Conzo's first year, I think.
Wow.
They got their 20th win last game of the regular season against Arkansas, Conzo's first year. Then before that, it was 2014, March of 2014.
Who wins in a game, this year's team versus the 2017 team with like Jonte and Cassius? I think the 2017 team probably wins. That their 3-point shooting would absolutely murder this year's team, I think.
I don't know. I think they could.
I mean, it'd be a good game, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But
I'd like to see a shootout between those two teams.
Yeah.
Robertson and Demoy Hodge going back and forth. That'd be pretty fun.
Yeah, it'd be epic.
No. I was thinking like Kobe Brown would be playing on both teams, but that's too far back.
They showed that little graphic last night of him and his just like steady increase. Like, I'm such an old man about this, but I love those like 4-year players where you just see them like steadily improve every year, just become this like all conference player, like from like humble beginnings or whatever. Like, man, I just give me those stories all day.
Yeah. And that specific progression in his points per game from a freshman to a senior is just like
perfectly
textbook
spaced out.
Exactly how you would imagine it.
Yeah.
Ooh. Yeah. He's been awesome this year. And his shooting has just been ridiculous. I mean, He's regularly shooting like 7 threes a game recently, and let me see if he's still number 1 in the SEC. I'm back in 2018. Kobe Brown is 20th in the country on the season at 46.7% from 3. In SEC play, he's number 1 at 47.5%
He
from 3.
47% from 3.
Yeah. That's his game now.
That is insane.
He had a couple opportunities to make just insane plays in the Mississippi State game. Like there was one late shot clock situation where he was kind of like rolling out to the top of the key and it had a catch and shoot that he had no business making it, but it was like right there, just very easily could have gone in. And he had like
he could have hit the game winner.
Well, yeah, that too. I was talking more about the 3-point shooting. I'm ready to move on from that. That was I don't want to think about that.
It's okay, they won.
Yes, I know. It's still scary to think about. He had a like step back fade away in the corner on a 3 earlier in the game that the commentating crew specifically mentioned was like an NBA play. He just does that nowadays.
I would have never have guessed he was shooting 47%.
Yeah. 48. I'm rounding up.
Wow.
47.5 rounds up to 48%.
Basically a coin flip on 3-point shot.
Basically. Is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
That's all.
Special thank you to our Patreon supporters at the $10 level and above: Britt Treese, Brian Smith, Ryan Demore, Tristan, Ben Smith, Parker, Daddy JD, Tim Keens, Tyler Harsel, Brandon Garofalo, Brandon Hanks. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. We appreciate you very much. You can find this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. We're on Twitter at Mizzou Sports Pod, and you can email us at MissouriSportsPod@gmail.com.
You can find our t-shirts and stickers on our online shop, MissouriSportsPod.BigCartel.com.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. We will see you next week.